Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. Buckle up, as it's a long one, and don't forget to listen to the end of the story to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, guys, and please like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My youngest son is furious with me. He says I'm unfair and playing favorites because I paid for his older brother's wedding, but I'm refusing to do the same for him. I understand why he feels that way, and from his perspective, it must seem like I'm favoring his brother. But this isn't about favoritism. It's about the serious concerns I have about the woman he's chosen to marry. A few years ago, my older son married Rachel, and I couldn't have been happier to support their union. Rachel is a dream daughter-in-law every parent would hope for their child. She's hardworking, kind, and respectful. From the moment we met her, she made an effort to connect with our family. She took the time to get to know us, asked thoughtful questions about our lives, and showed genuine interest in becoming a part of our family. More importantly, she and my son seemed to truly bring out the best in each other. Rachel supported him in his career goals, encouraged him to keep growing, and always treated him with love and respect. They work well as a team, facing challenges together and celebrating their successes. I was more than happy to pay for their wedding, and I've never regretted that decision. With my youngest son, the situation is entirely different. His fiance, Michelle, has always been a source of concern for me. She went to high school with both of my sons, so I've known about her for years. Back then, she was infamous for her reckless behavior. She dated multiple boys in the same social circle, including my older son, and her relationships often ended in drama. Her reputation wasn't just gossip. It came from people who knew her well, and her actions reinforced the stories that followed her. Even after high school, Michelle continued to make headlines in our small community. Over the years, I heard about Michelle's rocky relationships, her struggles to hold down a stable job, and her impulsive decisions. I've heard that she had terminated multiple pregnancies in the past. While I believe that such choices are deeply personal, and I don't judge anyone for making them, what troubled me was her attitude towards these decisions. She seemed to approach them with little thought or consideration, which only added to the image of someone who made impulsive and careless choices. That image just wasn't in the past. It continued to show itself in her present behavior. When my youngest son introduced Michelle as his fiance, I hoped that she had matured since high school. I wanted to believe that the woman he loved was different than the girl I'd heard about. But as I got to know her again, I found the same patterns. Michelle still seemed carefree and immature, more focused on her own desires than having a family with my son. She frequently dismissed his goals, rolling her eyes or making sarcastic remarks when he talked about his career aspirations. It was hard to watch because I knew how much those dreams meant to him. Instead of supporting him, she often downplayed his accomplishments or ignored the things he was passionate about. Michelle also didn't make much of an effort with our family. Unlike Rachel, who had been eager to form a bond with us, Michelle seemed indifferent. She didn't ask questions about our lives, didn't show much interest in our family traditions, and gave off the impression that she wasn't particularly concerned with making a good impression. It felt like she was doing the bare minimum to tolerate us, rather than truly trying to integrate herself into the family. When my son made the decision to propose, I can't say I was thrilled. I tried my best to keep my concerns to myself and support him as much as I could. I didn't want to crush his excitement or come across as unsupportive, especially since he was so clearly convinced that Michelle was the love of his life. I told myself that maybe I wasn't seeing the whole picture. Maybe I was wrong, and they truly made each other happy. And really, who was I to stand in the way of this happiness? It wasn't my decision to make, and if he was certain about her, what could I do but let him live his life? So I kept my feelings to myself, even if it meant swallowing my doubts. I figured, at the very least, I owed him the chance to prove me wrong. When my son decided to propose, he went above and beyond to make it special. He had been quietly setting aside money for months, determined to get her a ring that he thought would make her happy. He spent weeks planning the proposal, down to the very last detail. First, he arranged a romantic dinner at her favorite restaurant. Then, he planned a walk under the stars, leading her to the spot where they first kissed. He wanted it to be meaningful, memorable, and perfect. When he finally popped the question, She said yes. But when he told me about it afterward, I could see that something wasn't quite right. He didn't seem excited. He was trying to put on a brave face, but the usual spark in his voice wasn't there. When I asked how she reacted, he hesitated. She liked it, he said, but his tone was flat. I pressed a little, and that's when he admitted. She said it wasn't exactly what she imagined. The ring, I mean. Apparently, her first response had been less about the proposal and more about the ring itself. She told him she'd envisioned something different, something bigger or flashier. He said she wasn't mean about it, but it was clear that she was disappointed. He tried to shrug it off, telling me that she's just particular about jewelry and that she'll grow to love it. But it was obvious that her reaction had hurt him. He had poured so much thought and effort into that moment, hoping to make her happy, and her first thought wasn't the love behind the gesture. It was about the ring not meeting her expectations. That reaction stuck with me. That was more proof to me that she's not the right person for him. So when he came to me asking for help with the wedding expenses, I knew I couldn't just say yes and ignore everything I'd seen. I sat him down and told him the truth. I explained that I didn't feel comfortable funding a wedding for a relationship that I didn't believe in. I told him that while I supported his older brother's wedding without hesitation, it was because I saw two people who respected each other, shared the same values, and worked together as a team. With Michelle, I didn't see those qualities. I saw a woman who doesn't respect, support, or value my son. A woman who has a horrible reputation. I asked him, "Are you sure you want to marry a woman who slept with your own brother? Who got rid of all her pregnancies? Who rolled her eyes on your dreams and accomplishments?" He didn't take it well. He accused me of judging Michelle unfairly, of holding on to outdated gossip from high school, and of not giving her a chance. He said I was acting as if his love for her didn't matter. I tried to explain that my concerns weren't just based on the past. I told him I was worried about the way she treated him now, about how she didn't appreciate him. I mentioned the engagement ring, but he wasn't hearing it. He said she's just a very honest and open person. And to him, my refusal to help him pay for the wedding was a personal attack on his fiance and his choices and a favoritism towards his brother and his wife. I told him I will be happy to pay for his wedding if he chooses another woman to marry, but with his current choice, I just can't force myself to do so. The argument escalated. He told me that if I couldn't support him and Michelle, then he didn't want me at the wedding. He said he couldn't have someone there who wasn't genuinely happy for them. I was devastated, but I couldn't bring myself to compromise my principles. I told him I hoped he would find happiness, but I couldn't pretend to celebrate a union I felt was built on shaky ground. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my son's wedding because I don't approve of his fiancée while I paid for his brother's? While Michelle certainly raises some huge red flags, especially her behavior towards OP's son's thoughtful proposal and dismissing his dreams, I think OP is making a clear statement of favoritism by financially supporting one son's wedding and completely refusing the other. Even if OP's intentions are rooted in genuine concern, OP is effectively creating a divide that could permanently change his relationship with his youngest son. OP is within his rights to voice concerns, but withholding support altogether is going to come off as a personal judgment rather than parental concern. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole. I genuinely sympathize with your position. It's incredibly painful to watch your child walk into what seems like an inevitable disaster. Michelle's reaction to the proposal alone would be enough to raise alarm bells. Never mind her lack of support for your son's career aspirations and her apparent indifference towards your family. However, remember that ultimately, your son must live his own life. You've expressed your feelings clearly, and if he still chooses her, that's his decision. Just be prepared to be there for him if things don't work out. You're the a-hole. Look, you may have valid concerns, but you've completely crossed the line by using money to influence your son's relationship choices. Paying for one son's wedding while openly refusing the other, based solely on your judgment of his fiancé's past behavior, is guaranteed to destroy your relationship with him. You're essentially forcing him to pick between you and the woman he loves. If you're right about Michelle, he's an adult, and it's his mistake to make. Let him live his life without using financial manipulation to control him. No a-holes. I truly feel for both of you. Your youngest son deserves happiness, and he believes he's found it with Michelle. But you're clearly seeing troubling patterns in her behavior, and as a parent, it's natural to want the best for your child. Unfortunately, by refusing to pay, you've created a scenario where your son sees favoritism instead of genuine concern. I understand you don't want to financially support something you fundamentally disagree with, but be mindful that your decision will deeply affect your relationship. Both of you need empathy right now more than ever. Update. Well, the wedding happened, and just as my son promised, I wasn't invited and didn't attend. It broke my heart, but I held on to hope that somehow I'd be wrong and everything would turn out fine for my youngest son. Unfortunately, reality hit hard. My oldest son called me the day after the wedding. He said the entire wedding was a disaster. Apparently, at the reception, he caught Michelle, the woman my youngest son insisted was the love of his life, kissing one of the wedding guests. And not just any guest, but their cousin's boyfriend. My oldest son immediately told his brother, hoping he'd finally see the truth about Michelle. But instead of accepting what happened, my youngest son accused his brother of trying to sabotage his wedding out of jealousy, claiming he was envious because Rachel, my oldest son's wife, is not so pretty and perfect. In anger, my youngest son shouted at him, causing a huge scene and ultimately kicking him out of the wedding altogether. I'm stunned and heartbroken. It's as if Michelle has completely hypnotized my son, blinding him to her betrayal and manipulation. I feel helpless, and I worry that he'll keep pushing everyone away until he's completely isolated. I've tried reaching out, but he's still refusing to speak to me. Now all I can do is hope that he eventually opens his eyes before it's too late, and I'll be here waiting when he does. I have 4 children, 2 biological and 2 stepchildren from my husband's first marriage. I consider all of them to be my kids, but for clarity, I have to differentiate. When my stepchildren were 12 and 13, it came out that they were not biologically my husband's. It was very dramatic and rocked the entire family. There was a minute where they were suspicious of me as well, but since I had insisted on testing my biological children at birth due to issues from my own childhood, this was over before it began. My husband and I continued raising all 4 children until he passed away 2 years ago. His father just died 6 months ago. The kids are 17, 16, 10, and 9. In his will, his father decided to only leave money to his biological children. This money is to be held in trust, so even I can't access it. It's not millions, but is easily enough to pay for each grandkid to go to college and put a down payment on a house. My stepkids viewed him as their grandfather, so they are furious about this. But on a practical level, they need money for college and now don't have it. They've been blaming me and hounding me to fix this. I can't and won't. The will is airtight. The money is in trusts that I don't have legal access to. Just to try to do anything would involve, technically, suing children to harass my sister-in-law and the legal firm into trying to invalidate a valid will, which would be cruel and pointless. I agree that it's unfair, yes, but it's also not my fault. Their mother is the reason why they're not in the will, not me. I'm not going to pretend to know why she did it, and I don't have any personal feelings about her. She's always been a devoted mother to her kids, which is the only thing I cared about. The rest of her private life is her own business, and this is ultimately her responsibility. I told them to take it up with her, and now they're even angrier that I'm talking bad about their mother, and are blasting me to everyone that will hear that I've always played favorites. Not true. And that I'm not doing anything because I got what I always wanted. Doubly not true. I don't want to lose them or cause more pain over something that I had no part in. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. This is a horrible no-win situation for you and your stepchildren. Short of hiring someone to literally raise the grandfather from the dead so as to reason with him, there's literally nothing you can do. Are there already college funds set aside for the older 2 by you, husband, and their mother? One should not count on someone dying in order to pay university tuition. The grandfather is definitely the a-hole here. How incredibly hurtful. Not the a-hole. The granddad did this intentionally, and that's who they need to blame. Not the mother, not the father, etc. It was also likely designed to do just what it's doing now. Drive a wedge between you all. I suggest to continue doing what you're doing now. Besides blaming the mother, there's not a whole lot you could do otherwise. Not the a-hole. I feel for them, but their anger is misplaced. This is really unfair, and the granddad was wrong for doing that. They may not want to take this out on their mom since she is their only parent left. Not sure what's up with the actual bio dad. I used to be close with my kids, Eva and Wes. I had suffered from bad depression after my husband died. My oldest, Wes, really picked up the plate and took care of Eva while I was struggling. He said he was happy to take her to school, feed her, etc. He used to really love me. But it seems like both of them grew distant from me after I got a new boyfriend. I keep reminding them that I'm more than just a mother, that they aren't and cannot be my entire life. It seems to have rubbed them the wrong way because I overheard them make jokes about it. Eva said to our dog, "I'd like to feed you, but I'm more than just a dog owner, okay?" It's really frustrating that she doesn't seem to care about women's issues. I left to see my boyfriend who was out of state for 2 weeks. Wes was 16 and Eva 12, so perfectly able to look after themselves. But they never called me, so I stayed for longer. Still no call. When I got back, they hardly welcomed me. I kept reminding them that I'm a mother, sure, but I need to have a life outside of them, which led to Eva saying, "When are you a mother, though?" Which hurts because I do pay rent and most of the bills. I just don't get them. They have all these inside jokes I'm not a part of. They watch shows and read books that I know nothing about. I try to get close, but they don't let me in anymore. Eva has type 1 diabetes. I tried to look at her records to see how her blood sugar is, but she just screamed at me. She said only Wes can look at it. He gives her shots, but won't let me help. I don't even know how to make dinners for them. He makes dinners for Eva based on what her nutritionist recommended and leaves me extra in the fridge. Wes has a job until 10 p.m. on most school days and most weekends, and Eva goes with him. I hardly see them. I miss when they were babies and needed me. I didn't even know which colleges Wes applied to until he came to me and told me he got a full ride to his top university and that his scholarships paid for his housing and he plans on taking Eva with him. I was shocked. I said no, but he said it's already decided and she will not stay here. He got a 2-person apartment and has $10K in savings. He told me they'd be fine and that I could call. I yelled and pleaded, but nothing worked. My daughter doesn't want to stay with me. I told them that I feel they are punishing me for not being a conventional mom, for having a life outside of them. Wes said, "You haven't really been a mom at all." He called it fake feminism. He thinks it's fake for me to live my own life? I thought I raised him to be a better man than that, but I guess I didn't. I pointed out that they don't seem to need me or want me around. He said, "We're not going to beg you to be in our lives. It's up to you." I don't even know what that means. I can't believe how ungrateful my kids are being. They want me to be a housewife, but that's not who I am, and it seems they are punishing me for having a life outside of them. Huge, you're the a-hole. You're neglecting your children, OP, and they're telling you that in no uncertain terms. Don't worry, you don't have to put up with being a mother anymore as soon as they can move out. I really can't understand how someone can abandon their children for an extended period of time and then unironically wonder why said children don't trust her and want nothing to do with her at all. OP, you had your whole life to have a close bond with your children. It's too late now and entirely your fault. Girl, what? You're the a-hole. Being a mother is way more than paying the rent and most of the bills. Huh? Who pays the rest? You just leave your children for more than 2 weeks by themselves? You made your 16-year-old jump in as a dad because you were sad? He lost his dad for Christ's sake and is a child, not a babysitter. He's responsible for her diabetes? Dear God. He makes dinner for her and for you? Oh my. You suck at being a parent. I have 2 children, Laurel, 24, and Kevin, 15. Laurel is from my first marriage. Kevin and my wife think that I favor Laurel, but that's just not true. They've complained about it over the years, but now it's at a boiling point. The most recent complaint is that I gave her a free house. None of their accusations have ever been true, but this one especially isn't. I've been with the same company for over 35 years. Decades ago, my job made me and several other employees travel to their headquarters so often that they bought us condos in the home city because it was cheaper at the time than constantly paying for hotels. At the time, property in the city was cheap. We had free use, but technically the company owned them, and they paid all expenses. In 2020, obviously all business travel stopped. At the time, Laurel was moving to that city with her new husband, and they were looking for a place. Because it was just sitting empty and would be for a long time, I told her that they could live in the condo until things went back to normal. It would be safe and clean, and it would give them a chance to save money for a better place of their own, as they were expecting their first child. In 2021, 2 things happened. The company decided to shut down all physical offices for a permanent work from home, and I decided to take my retirement. With closing the physical offices, they also really wanted to get rid of the condos. They offered them to us at an extreme discount. I didn't want it, but Laurel did. She and her husband offered to pay the cost, and I let them. It was less than 1/4 of market cost, but it wasn't free or a gift to her. Kevin realizes that there's not going to be anything like that for him, and he is raging about it. He claims that I've always done things like this, and that I gave her a house but am probably going to kick him out at 18, like every American parent. My wife is on his side and angry about this, and that I let Laurel be a stay-at-home mother and not her. None of these things are true. I didn't give her a free house. I let her buy one at a discount because she happened to be buying at the exact time that there was any opportunity for one. Also, she got to be a stay-at-home mother because she happened to be having a baby at the only time in modern history that required people to stay home, not because I was funding her. I realize how it must look, but really she just ended up doing things in special situations where there were unique opportunities. I don't think I'm in the wrong here because I don't treat my children differently. If I happen to come across an opportunity for Kevin to do the same with the same, I would make sure he's aware, but I can't imagine I would. Not the a-hole, but honestly, I feel like your wife is the source of what Kevin is spewing out. What 15-year-old boy cares about housing? It seems like your wife is using Kevin to try and get you to buy a property in his or her name to even the scoring between Kevin and Laurel. Not the a-hole. I have a question for the wife and son. My hypothetical daughter is learning piano, and my coworker has one they want to get rid of. My fake daughter pays for the 1/4 herself. I spend nothing. Do I now owe my hypothetical son a piano? Is that their reasoning? Or a step further, I drive my fake kids to the mall and we walk around. My daughter's favorite store has a clearance sale on, so she is able to use her own money to buy a huge load of stuff. Do I owe my son the value of the savings she made? I can't get my head around the entitlement here. I don't know, man. It sounds like there's a lot of stuff missing here. Like, what happened when your son was born that upset your wife so much? What are the things in the past that Kevin has complained about regarding favoritism? I mean, there's truth to his complaint buried in some hyperbole. You open doors that wouldn't have been open for her. Yes, you don't see this kind of stuff coming, but have you done anything to ensure he can have housing, college, covered through his mid-20s? Or is the plan actually that he's on his own? This particular complaint sounds like it's connected with actual fear that you will cut him off from resources when he becomes of age. At 15, he's worried about abandonment. Why? This looks like you need to stop reacting personally and realize your household needs therapy. Something is wrong here.